So let's now create our product schema here. Now, besides the schema, we'll also create a so-called model. The schema is basically the blueprint for our product, and the model builds up on that blueprint and then allows us to really use that schema in our project, but we'll see this step by step now. Therefore, I'll refer to both schema and models, well, kind of interchangeably here. What does a product look like in the end? Well, if we go to the Mongo.js file, we can see it up here already. We have a pretty simple product. We only need a name and a price in the end. Therefore, let's now create this schema for our product. And typically, you create a new folder named Models, for example. And in this folder, we now create our file for our product schema. And therefore, naming it product.js file is probably not the worst decision here. Now, to create the schema, we need to import Mongoose first. So we create a new constant named Mongoose and the require syntax. And we require Mongoose here. So with the package imported, now we want to create the schema. For that, we create another constant, maybe named product schema here. And this constant now refers to the imported Mongoose package and here to the schema method, important with a capital S here. Now, it turns out that this schema method here is a constructor function. Therefore, if we add new right here, we can pass in a JavaScript object, and this object then defines the structure of a newly created product and therefore of the document that we want to store. Now, we saw that the product contains two properties, the name and the price. So let's start with the name here. And in its simplest form now, we can now simply add a string here, for example, to define that our name should be, well, a string. But Mongoose actually gives us more power than this. We can pass in a JavaScript object here and now say that it should be of type string. And we can also pass in additional properties, for example, the required property, and set this to true. This will simply mean that we have to provide the name here, and you actually got more properties you can add to a schema. You can find these here in the official Mongoose docs. If you click onto read the docs here, you get a nice general introduction to that whole schema topic here. And if you click onto schema types, and scroll down a bit, then you see all schema types here. Here we use required, you can also use default and so on. So you can dive deeper at this point if you want to. But for our purposes, this should be fine here. So let's now define also the price property. Again, we pass in a JavaScript object, this time not of type string though, but this should be a number and it should also be required. So this is our schema already, but as I said before, to be able to use this schema, which in the end is the blueprint for a document, a product we want to create, we need to add a model based on the schema. With the model, we can then use the schema in our app in the end. To do that, we again refer to our Mongoose package here, but this time we use the model function here. The model function requires two arguments. The first argument is the name of the schema. Well, in our case, product would be a fitting name. By the way, when we use this model, this will also become the name of the collection without the capital starting character though and the plural form. So our collection will be called products then, which is kind of a fitting name. And the second argument should refer to the name of the schema that we created. And as we also want to use this model in other files, we will create a Mongoose.js file in the next lecture. We also have to export it with the export syntax. So module.exports is equal to our Mongoose model. So this is our model, and let's now see how we can use this to create a new product.